I am here to talk about my art. But not my art, my perspective. But not my perspective. My encouragement for you to do the work of the artist, which is to draw a frame around the world. What is a frame? A frame is a container. It is a boundary between what is inside and what is outside. A photographer frames their shot with their camera's viewfinder. This part of the world is captured, that part is excluded. As an artist, the photographer is inviting you to slow down, notice, and explore the part of the world inside of the frame. In museums, frames are often ornate. They send the signal that what's inside is special and worthy of attention and consideration. I'm a multimedia artist. Here's an example of some of my work. Large color-filled paintings I create using Kool-Aid and India ink. I am driven in my creation of them by the knowledge that my work is to draw a frame around the world. Kool-Aid, which is a beverage I drank often as a child, immediately looks like a problem when it spills. We look around for a sponge. We think, am I going to have to bleach the tablecloth now? To begin one, I mix a packet of Kool-Aid powder with a couple ounces of water, then spill it out on a large piece of watercolor paper. Once the puddle shapes have formed and dried, I come back with a pen and nib and draw crisp, precise black lines around them. By reframing the spill as a painting, I'm spotlighting it as a moment of glory. The shapes are beautiful. The color is captivating. The movement, the composition, the subtle gradients that form, all these things are worthy of appreciation. It's a stop and smell the roses kind of concept. The lines slow the viewer down so the beauty in front of them is evident. I also want to talk about neurodiversity. It's one of my favorite topics. Thank goodness for neurodiversity. And for people like Judy Singer. Just as a poet draws frames around the world using words, sociologist Judy Singer reframed the concept of autism and the conversation around conditions that have historically been referred to as disorders by coining the term neurodiverse in 1998. So much good has come from neurodivergent minds. Autism especially has been responsible for powerful leaps of progress for civilization in science, technology, communication, and of course art. There are plenty of other TED Talks with examples of the invaluable contributions of these neurodivergent minds. My contribution is to celebrate the link with these Think Neurodiversity for Goodness stickers, and by drawing frames around the world with my other artwork. As an artist, I reframe things that are easy to take for granted. For example, these lightly sweetened strips of dried coconut that you can buy in a bag for a few dollars at Trader Joe's. Off the shelf, they're delicious, nutritious, affordable, accessible, reliable, quality controlled, convenient snacks. But when you hold them between your fingers and eat them in tiny nibbles, they become super sexy. To make smoke-a-nuts, I straighten and trim these coconut strips and put 10 of them in a pocket-sized tin. As handmade art, but they're expensive and mostly nobody buys them. But when I bring them out at a party and performatively read the label, everybody gets it. They don't have to buy it to benefit from the work that I've done. The frame, the reframe, they get that for free. and they can take it with them on their journey long afterwards. Here's what it says on the inside of a smoke nuts tin. Smoke nuts are for those of us who recognize the importance of looking as cool on the outside as we are on the inside. They're lightly sweetened strips of dried coconut, specially designed to be held like Miles Davis and Audrey Hepburn held their cigarettes, perched elegantly between your index and middle fingers. Gesture with one in your hand as though you've forgotten it's there. Cup your mouth and eat the short end that's concealed in your palm. Smoke nuts, a sexier modern alternative to smokes. All of the glamour, none of the cancer. Of course, the artist's work is not always to draw a frame around beauty. In 2018, I started an organization called the Good Listening Project. We draw frames around people's experiences by capturing them inside of poems. We do it to help fight burnout and support resilience and well-being in healthcare. The idea of our work is simple. We set up one-on-one conversations for healthcare workers to talk with specially trained listener poets about whatever is on their mind. The conversations are typically about 20 minutes long. Afterwards, the listener poet takes some notes, composes and writes a poem based on what they heard, and delivers it to that healthcare worker. The typical response we get is that it feels cathartic, uplifting, and therapeutic. We're not therapists. The work we're doing is not therapy. We're listening to people and reflecting back what we heard. We're helping these nurses, doctors, and social workers and other professional healers to process and move through their emotions by spending time with them and making meaning. As Emily and Amelia Nagoski wrote in their book, Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle, when we make meaning, we can sustain ourselves through worse things than we can imagine. Here's an example. It's a poem I wrote for a doctor I talked with in 2020 during the pandemic. It's called Dust and Streaks. Dust and streaks. I look at the screen and see she's doing better. Her liver is working again. She produced urine. We improved the numbers by our efforts. She does not die today. Yet, the coma will remain. She will develop an infection we can treat. Then another will come. What is in our control that has meaning? There are trees outside. Trees that rustle in the wind and shuffle birds and leaves and snow. The sun rises and sets, alive in cloud color. There is the golden hour. We wipe the window clean to serve the view, not to make finer the glass, but for the view. Frames help us navigate the stimulation that bombards us. Personally, I am always on the brink of astonishment. I think of myself as a new soul, in the sort of way you might call someone an old soul. I can barely contain the wonder I feel looking at a fork full of food on its way to my mouth, or a tiny purple flower growing from a crack in the sidewalk. I experience this as a power, and I accept the responsibility that comes with it to draw frames amidst the chaos of the world so that people might notice the beauty of the world. Each of us has this opportunity to draw such frames. You have a unique and majestic mind. You can slow down the chaos of the world as a leader, as a friend, as a grown-up in somebody's world, a child in somebody else's, by spotlighting something that focus could serve. I hope that next time you see something extra, something extraordinary, or even something just ordinary, but in a new way, you will consider drawing a frame around it so that the rest of us can notice it and join you in its exploration. Thank you.